generation to generation stories, which we have in our own families. Um, Will this be replaced by whatever AI scrapes up from the internet, or will families still be families and the family stories still remain?
So a big part of what the difference between those family stories and AI is the difference between wisdom and knowledge. AI has all this knowledge in it, has all this data in it. But wisdom is different from knowledge. And anyone who's lived probably more than 30 or 35 years just understands the difference automatically. But wisdom is something that helps you in unfamiliar situations. It kind of passes on these rules of thumb. It passes on these kinds of experiential lessons. It makes you feel like you've actually participated in your parents' lives. It helps you feel like you've participated in this whole history. And a big part of that participation is just this confidence in your ability to survive in the unknown. Whereas what knowledge is telling you this is a known answer to a known situation. And so, whether or not AI will replace that, I think that humans are starting to get tired of technology. I think we're sort of at this hand-wringing phase where people are like, oh my goodness, technology is so bad. It's just, and then I think at a certain point, people are like, I've had enough. And I think you're going to start to see more and more people pivot away from it. And I think that that's going to be healthy because I think technology is useful to some extent, right? All of us have had our lives improved in some way by technology. But the problem is the dependence. So I'm skeptical that knowledge will replace wisdom, but in a lot of individual pockets of individual lives, it is, and you just think about how many times in the past, would you maybe have called your parents to talk through something or called through, someone else who was wise and
What's the
experienced.
cheese sauce recipe?
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And then at
the
the same time, she's telling you the recipe. She's telling you all these other things, which in the moment she's telling you, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is that?
Well, I always do this. Remember when I burned it?
But then it turns out, right? Those are actually the most important parts, and those are the things that contain like the real insights.
Now, I know you have children, and one of the things that has happened unbelievably throughout all the kids that are in school today from age 6 up until through high school is all of the screens, whether it's television and any television anytime, it's smartphones, it's games, they're everywhere, and they're insidious, and they're all of these kinds of things, and they're a real problem. Where do you come down on the screens with respect to the kids and just any of us, I guess, but compared to the fact that we're human, Yeah,
so the main problem with screens is that they introduce your brain into a frictionless environment. So the whole point of technology is to make things as easy as possible, to remove friction. And what that means is that the more you use the technology, the more you like it because it's easy. And then it also means the less able you are to interact with anything that isn't technology because anything that isn't technology includes friction. And the source of the biggest friction in our lives is what? Other people. So what happens is the more you use these devices, then you're like, oh, this device is great. It makes me feel so powerful. I mean, one of the things, people don't actually know this. I mean, part of the reason that Steve Jobs is such a genius, but also part of the reason his legacy is somewhat fraught is because the reason he invented the Macintosh the way that he did was to make you feel more powerful. The purpose of the Macintosh computer is to give you the experience of almost being a god. Because if you went back and you used the original IBMs, it was like, oh my goodness, this is so complicated. I feel so stupid all the time. I'm having to type commands and use these like prompt things. And then what does Jobs do with the Macintosh? He gives you the mouse, which he didn't invent, but he saw the point behind it. So now all of a sudden I can just move things around.
And no manuals.
Right? Exactly.
Hey.
So all of a sudden you just feel powerful and you get this enormous emotional reinforcement. And the whole point of, UX and user design has been to create this emotional sense of it's so intuitive to me, the user, right? I don't even have to think about it. And that just makes you think that somehow reality should obey the same rules. And when it doesn't, you don't know how to deal with it. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is so irritating. There must be something wrong. All the time with my students, I have this, where they come into my office and they say to me, I'm like seeing this person, but I think that they're like a psychopath. And I'm like, do you think they're a psychopath?
Really?
Like, why do you think they're a psychopath?
It's like, yeah,
that's right. Well, we were talking about this movie and they don't like the movie that I like. And I was like, okay, and then what? No, that's it. They don't like the movie that I like. They must be a psychopath. And I'm like, what? And then you realize it's because they don't know how to deal with interpersonal friction. And the moment that there's any conflict, they're like, something must be wrong here. And what must be wrong here is either me and I must be a failure and a loser, right? And I need to throw myself out of society, or the other person has the dark triad. Have you guys heard of this thing, the dark triad, where all my undergraduates are obsessed with this idea that people are going around carrying like narcissism and Machiavellianism and all these kind of traits that go together and make them evil. And so anytime they experience like a momentary sense of discomfort in a relationship, they think that something is catastrophically wrong, as opposed to being like, oh, this is a moment for growth. Because clearly we're both two interesting people who aren't understanding each other at the moment. So let's figure out how to tell stories to each other that allow us to kind of get our narrative together. And so that's, I think, the real problem with technology is it's habituating our brains to think that somehow life should be effortless, when actually the hard parts, as we all know, are the best parts. I mean, the things that in your life that have given you the most strength and the most wisdom have been the most challenging parts. And so why are we trying to eliminate all of that? So, of course, we don't need friction all the time. There's times when it's nice just to have something be effortless. And so I'm not arguing that technology is terrible or bad, but the more we give people that at a young age, the more they start to think this is the way the world should be, the less it's helping them develop the capacity for growth.